Okay, back to Renaissance Man. If you're staying up with me, you've watched parts 6 and 7, and I've got some things to say about that, and I think I'll hold off on what's coming next. These are the characters now. There are 8 soldiers. There's also Bill Rago. There's also Lou Cass. And maybe I should have put all their complete names on there. At the end of the movie, maybe I'll show you some things about that. Miranda Myers, she's in there, we find out, because she wants to be all she can be, for opportunity. Benitez, he's there, his sister's death from gangs, we found out about that. Melvin has a sleep disorder, and you found out that it's because he was abused as a child. And it's an escape mechanism. Montgomery, he's mouthy. Montgomery Jamal. At the moment, I can't think what else there is to say about him. Hobbs, at this point, it's kind of a question mark. What is it with Hobbs? He just said he wanted a new trade. He wanted a new trade. We don't know too much about Hobbs. Davis, he's got a thing about his daddy. He's convinced his daddy was a hero, and no one believes him. Hayward, he was in a trailer park, and he just wanted to get out of that trailer park. He was stuck. Leroy, Jackson Leroy, or Leroy Jackson, I get him mixed up, he needed a better job. He felt he wanted to, he'd been an athlete, but that wasn't going to get him a good job. I'll have more to say about these characters. You get to know them, and you watch them develop, and you learn more about them throughout this movie. Now, toilet trained at gunpoint. What a funny line. That's what Bill Rago says to Lou Cass. And you know, when I come to that, I can't help mentioning to my students that, you know, other teachers, English teachers, will teach about imagery. You know, and when you take tests, you're supposed to deal with the imagery. Well, think of the image. Toilet trained at gunpoint, you know, the image of daddy or mommy holding a gun and say, "You better go, kid." Anyway, pretty good image. Funny, I think. I don't understand why the section about Raging Bull is in that. I understand so much about this movie, but I do not understand that. Don't break my heart, my achy, breaky heart. I just don't think you understand. He's singing in the shower, and he comes out. And, I don't know. I just don't understand that scene. Like Greased Owl, you know, we find out that Melvin's little brother wrote that, and that also is a pretty good image, really. That's imagery. I didn't write this out. But see, imagery and literary devices are not limited to fancy language and well-educated people. One of the men, I think of him sometimes, in my life that had such a gift for imagery was a gangster. Really, he was a gangster that I learned to know while I was at Harvard. I worked as a night watchman, and he was a maintenance man. I guess I won't say his name. But we'd share coffee together. This guy was rough. I mean, he was a loan shark. In some ways, he was scary, but he had such a gift for telling a story. Better than any of the professors I had at Harvard. And I love to hear his story as well. Anyway, now, in the letter he said that he threw a rod. Well, if you throw a rod, sometimes I'll have students know that, it destroys an engine. It's the connecting rod, and if you throw it, it goes like this. It goes into the wall of the engine, destroys it. Threw a rod, and Dad threw him down the stairs. Well, there's a name for that. That's a literary device there too. I'd have to look it up. It's not one of the real famous ones. There's about 8 or 10 that kids are standardly taught, but there's probably 20 or 30 literary devices, and this is more evidence of how clever this has been written. When they're going, "This above all to thine own self be true." Can anybody drum? "This above all to thine own self be true. This above all to thine own self be true." They're doing that in iambic or anapestic. Anapestic tetrameter. Shakespeare wrote in iambic pentameter, and probably Shakespeare meant this to go like this. This above all to thine own self be true. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This above all to thine own self be true. That's probably the way Shakespeare meant it. But it has a more of a beat to do it the way they did. And I hope you appreciated that right when they were doing that, they were drumming in the class with Shakespeare. It then cut to the cadence marching, where they're marching along, shouting to a beat. Well, there's more I could certainly tell you about the parts you're going to see now, but go ahead, watch them, and then tomorrow I'll tell you some of the things that you might have noticed. See you tomorrow.